The views expressed on this special broadcast of the Take 12 radio show do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting or its affiliates. KHLT is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
A very scary experience.
You know, God is a solution. God, the 12 step.
I like where he's going here.
Helps the community grow, helps us grow.
Monty has done a phenomenal job.
Lack of open-mindedness.
And you're talking about taking people through a spiritual process and getting them into recovery.
Thanks, Monty, and thanks for all your support.
We need spirituality to make this thing work long term.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
And now, broadcasting on location somewhere in the vast expanse of the Pacific Northwest, it's the over-opinionated 12-stepologist, the Monty Man.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Nathan, what do you mean somewhere? Thank you, Nathan, for that introduction. We are located at the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon, about an hour south of Portland, another half hour north of Eugene, Oregon. And by the way, if you happen to be driving in the Pacific Northwest and you're coming down the I-5 corridor through Albany, Oregon, please let us know. We'd love to have you drop by the studio, say hello, visit our facility. That's a lot of fun. I love it when people stop by. I am your host of the Monty Man here at Take 12 Radio. The web address, if you're listening on a smart device or in your car, is take12radio.com. That's the number 12 or the word 12. It'll take you to the same place. And coming up on February 26th, which is just around the corner, is the Lifeline Connections alumni event. And the theme this year is I Love Recovery. And Bob Raquel, a world-renowned recovery comedian who has been on Showtime and Last Comic Standing and Comedy Central, he's going to be there. I'm going to be there. In fact, I'm bringing a van full of people up to Vancouver. And we're going to be there. And we want to share with you the humor that's in recovery, as well as some really probably food that's not very good for you. So there's going to be pizza. It's free. The whole thing's free. The Lifeline Connections group up in Vancouver, Washington, as well as the recovery community in Vancouver, Washington, is phenomenal. You have the faith-based recovery community. You have the secular 12-step recovery community and others who come together, and they don't have an agenda. They come together. They're on the same side, and it's an amazing thing to see. And Clark College has been so gracious to let us use their facility. It's at the Geyser Hall Student Center, February 26th, 6 to 9 p.m. It's family-safe comedy. Bring the kiddos, and we will see you there if you're going to be in the area. If you live in the area, please don't miss this. It is an absolute hoot. That's the Lifeline Addictions alumni event. Don't let the word alumni scare you. It's the alumni for Lifeline Connections that puts this on. And it's open to the public, so please join us. If you'd like more information about it, you can always call me here at 541-971-6445 here at the studio, Monday through Friday. And our email address, by the way, if you've got gripes, concerns, compliments, I don't care. I just love hearing from you. Please email me at Take12Radio. That's TAKE, the number 12, radio at Comcast.net. All right. Do you guys remember back when the internet first became an area where the public could get our hands in it? Do you remember that? Are you old enough to remember that? I remember my first internet connection was through a server called Prodigy. And I think AOL and Prodigy and there was another one, doggone, I can't think of the name of it now, but they were the top 3. And it was amazing because you would turn your computer on, and that was a whole headache and a process to go through. And then you'd hear this god-awful screeching sound that came over your phone line. And then if you were lucky, you got connected. And for the most part, all you really could do was maybe surf, a couple of websites at a time and maybe do an email if you even knew how to do email. And I have to tell you, it's amazing how far we've come. But even back then, we had people who decided to become bloggers, people that would write articles on the internet and post them. The way I started was I was just writing emails back and forth between myself and one of my 12-step sponsees. And somebody got a hold of it somehow and started publishing it through something. And I got a phone call one day that said, "We really don't like your opinion about such and such, but man, that would make good copy. Why don't you think about, doing an audio format?" And I thought, wow, I never thought of that. And then some other things happened that kind of pressed me into that area. And then Take 12 Radio was born. Actually came out of a couple of people who had a resentment against me. So you never know how you're going to be blessed, my friends. Sometimes you get blessed by people that don't like you and they don't even know it. And you walk away and you're smelling like a rose. God's really blessed you. Well, listen, blogging is not over with. It's not. Some of you think it's a dead art. No, it's not. It's exploding like crazy. And within the recovery community, it isn't any different. Jennifer Wilson is my guest this week. Her website is clumsychristian.com. It's also jenniferwilsonbooks.com. It'll take you to the same place. I really love the title Clumsy Christian. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But listen, she's a mother, a wife, an ex-wife, a friend, a sister, a daughter, a recovering alcoholic, a suicide survivor, a woman with depression, bipolar, and a host of other bad habits and hang-ups. She's your neighbor, your friend, your coworker. Maybe she's even you. Her struggles are no worse or no easier than anyone else's. They're simply hers. Well, her blog is a place for her to use her life experience and writing to help others who might be hurting. It's a place for her to use what God gave her, the gift of writing. Jennifer says, sometimes I don't want to, and most of the time, I'm scared to do it. But I fought God and myself long enough, I found that life is a whole lot easier when I just cooperate with Him. So my guest this week is Jennifer Wilson. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Monty. I'm glad to be here. And wow, I sound like a hot mess when you read it like that.
I know, right? But you know what? It's really great because I read this and I go, yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of us out there like that.
And hey, you wrote it, girlfriend.
Now.
But when we're transparent like this, when it comes to people that need what we've experienced, you have to be transparent like that. Otherwise, they're not going to listen to us. True?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I used to sell insurance before I decided to do this full time as a writer, and I always felt like a fraud. I don't know. I didn't discover that till I was in recovery, why I felt like a fraud, but I just did. I mean, I was not an investment banker or anything like that, but I'm sitting here telling people how to handle their money with annuities and policies and planning for retirement, and I didn't feel authentic at all, and it always rubs me the wrong way. And I think, it's a beautiful way to live, and it's not for everybody to be public about their struggles, but I know for me, that is what God put on my heart, and He is not subtle. If I don't listen to Him, He really clobbers me over the head, and it is easier to do what He wants me to do.
Right, because He has your best interest at heart, and that's really the bottom line, and He's going to be glorified, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I absolutely hope so. And if I'm out of line, He'll hopefully get me back on track.
Yeah, there you go. So before we talk about your website and what you do in that area and your books and so forth, let's talk about Jennifer, for a minute. I mean, and I say that people hear me say this all the time, and I just believe it. I mean, you sound great. You sound like you're healthy and you're blessed, but things were not always that way. What was going on?
Well, I think I like I've heard a lot of people say just never felt good enough. I absolutely just felt like something was missing and I had to fix myself. Didn't realize I had to fix myself. I thought I needed a bigger house, a better car, more money, more obedient children, a better looking husband, whatever it was. There was always something on the outside that I tried to change and fix. And I didn't know that the change needed to be on the inside. And the hole that was in me was, that God-shaped hole. And so, I was doing substances. I think I was listening to one of your podcasts, and I never really liked alcohol. I used to sip it and yeah. At the drinking games, I'd pretend I was drinking, and
right.
I much preferred dry goods, and that was definitely my thing. And
I love the way you put
children,
that.
What's that?
I said, I love the way you put that. I much prefer dry goods.
Yeah. Of any kind, just anything worked for me as long as it changed who I felt like I was at the time.
Sure.
And I started partying a lot when I was a teenager, and I was the only one. I'm the fourth of 5 kids, and I used to say my brothers were all nerds. They never did anything wrong, but my sister came along. She broke my parents in, and I broke them. I completely broke them, and just did everything that you don't want your children to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 17, I fell into a really bad depression, and I had never experienced anything like that, didn't know what was wrong, and, it resulted in a suicide attempt, and, it wasn't my time. God didn't want me to go, and I kind of tucked that away deep inside, and I thought, okay, I beat that, so I'm, I can handle anything that comes my way, and, I grew up Catholic, and so I knew who God was, but I knew that God. And like I write about in one of my books is I thought that God based my worth on what I saw in organized religion, how well you dressed, what car you drove, how much money you threw in the offering tray, and there was a lot of hypocrisy in the church, and so I had a very distorted view of God love and God acceptance. And my parents were really involved in the church, but when I graduated with confirmation, I'm like, I'm out, I don't have to do it anymore.
Right.
And I just went on and relied on me, and relied on, friends and therapists and medication and, whatever I could find outside of me to try to keep myself fixed. And it was a train wreck for a very, very long time. And as my kids got older, you couldn't really hide some of the smells of this, pot smells a lot. And so it was not the easiest thing to continue doing, and alcohol became easier. And over the course of many years, it's funny, I've been sober for 4 years, and every time I look back further, I'm reminded that I was an alcoholic all the way back when I was first started, I can see some of my behaviors that, the blacking out and the things that I did, I'm like, wow, I really did drink alcoholically back then. And, but it got real bad towards, 6-7 years ago. And I was drinking quite a bit, and I was, had been through a divorce. I was remarried, and I fell again into a really, really horrible depression. I had, by all rights, everything in the world that anybody could want. And, it was really dark and really bad. And I had been going to church. I had found a Christian church. I had kind of found this other God of my understanding. But again, I turned away from him when I was depressed because I thought it was something he did. And when I came out of that really dark depression, Celebrate Recovery is real big at my church. Mm-hmm. And there were people talking about Celebrate Recovery, and I didn't know what it was, but I just knew those people needed help. And I was, God really likes to use my weak spots to get me where he wants me. So I listened to those people. I said, you know what? I am so darn awesome. I got myself out of this depression. I'm going to go over there and help those really poor, pathetic women, learn how to survive and succeed in life. so he used my ego to get me into a step study. And after that first class, I went, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And, over the course of a couple months, it's the same 12 steps, and we peel away the denial and all of that. And when it came time to find a sponsor, I realized I had looked at everything but the alcohol. And, I was leaving step study and going home that night and getting drunk, and I was doing that many nights a week. And I was really becoming uncomfortable with who I was because I had started to develop a God conscience, and I realized that this was not, I had a problem with it. I couldn't stop. And that's what led me into AA. And yeah, things are good, but they're good today. I know they could be bad tomorrow. And if it weren't for the fellowship, if it weren't for the recovery steps and the whole program, and thank God for sponsors. I mean, I was just on the phone with my sponsor this morning over a parenting issue that, the old me would have taken that and run with it. But, I think my parents should have been given a big book when I was born. They should have left the hospital with that. Like, here's her owner's manual. Just take this because she's going to need it. And, I don't know how I survived without this program and without, God in my, having him be in the driver's seat.
Right.
So
right.
Life's a lot different today. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the deal. I want to give out the website address. It's simply clumsychristian.com or jenniferwilsonbooks.com. And really, okay, so 4 years sober, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
So, and I'm just going to read this. This is at clumsychristian.com. It says, fumbling through recovery, faith, and mental illness with God. And I love this, and lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee.
And by the way, your website, congratulations. It is very user-friendly. It's very attractive. The color scheme is just right. I mean, folks,
thank you.
It really is very well done. And it's obvious that you have a strong passion for this. You're an accomplished author. You're a blogger. You are affecting people's lives, doing God's work, just in 4 years. And and I know tons of people that 4 years have gone by and they still don't understand step one. I mean, and that's frustrating because a lot of, people only know what they're taught. And we tend to be teaching people within our 12-step fellowships many times to be meeting dependent and not God dependent.
Right.
And through programs like Celebrate Recovery, hopefully that's changing. But 4 years, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here. I'm going, just in 4 years, you've accomplished this much? I mean, how in the heck, how come I can't accomplish that? And that's what some people are saying. I've been doing this thing for 12 years. How come I'm not where Jennifer's at? What would you say to them?
Well, where I am is sitting in my spare bedroom, in a makeshift desk with my little $400 laptop and a dog bed in the corner. And, I'm nowhere else. I'm nowhere different than where anyone else is. I just think that it's whatever, that dream of being a writer has been with me for 20 years. And, I talked about this at a recent share that every time I got close to actually finishing a book or going out to be a writer, alcohol got in the way. And I remember about 6 months before I got sober, I met this Christian author who I liked a lot. And I got the chance to meet her. She was at a book signing and whatnot. And I went, and me and my husband, he had the day off, and we went up to hear her speak, and I got my book signed, and it was wonderful. And I was so motivated and so determined. I'm like, this is it. This is that, that external thing that I need to achieve my goals. And we left there and we went to a local bar, and I don't remember much of the night. And, I woke up with this shame, like, that, that there's a voice, there's two voices. I hear a lot of voices, but that's just my bipolar. But there's the devil's voice, the illness, the disease is always there, and it's really, 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 really loud. And I know God's voice is there, but, I can't hear it a lot of the times, and anything I add just is fuel to the fire for that negative voice. And so when I got wasted that night, I woke up and that's all I heard was, "You're a failure. See, you can't do it. You can't do it. You're a loser. I told you you'd never be able to do it." And it just reconfirmed everything I ever thought about myself. So push that dream aside again. And, the fellowship and the people that went before me have taught me how to tune that voice out so that I can hear the quieter voice of God. Because for me, the devil's always louder, always louder. And I know God's voice is there, but man, he whispers, and it's hard to hear him sometimes, at least for me. But I struggle with fear every day, every single day, and I finally got my first book published, and I'm so excited. But it sold a whopping 4 copies, and that's okay, because that's not what it was about. It was about me actually doing what I think God wanted me to do. And I don't think that can ever happen if we're using substances, if we don't have that God connection. And, regardless of how long someone's been in recovery, their path is their own, and their dreams are their own. So whether their dream is raising their children, or their dream is, just being the star employee of the month, or their dream is, doing a radio program like you, we all have our own dreams. And I believe, for me, God gives us all talents, and they're all unique, and they're all so different. And when we're aligned with those gifts and we're using them for Him, that is when we are successful. That is when we feel peace, and I don't know, for me, that's when I feel most peaceful, and I feel like I'm actually making a difference. And the timing of this is just the timing of it. It doesn't matter if it's 4 years or 40 years. This is a dream I've had for 20 years. So, it took me 4 years in recovery to be able to do it. But without those 4 years, I'd still be dreaming. I'd still be drinking. So time, to me, I think, is irrelevant when it comes down to it.
Very well said. Very well said. Listen, folks, don't go away. More of my guest, Jennifer Wilson. ClumsyChristian.com is the website. Please make a note of it. And we'll be back right after this. Don't go away. Serene Scene Magazine is published for individuals who are seeking knowledge, support, and hope. Addiction is a systemic problem, and the content of Serene Scene reflects the complexity of putting addiction into remission, with special attention given to the loved ones of the addict. And now, here's Andrew Martin, Editor-in-Chief for Serene Scene.
I'm Andrew Martin, creator of Serene Scene Magazine. The whole purpose of Serene Scene Magazine is to help people help themselves to a long-term quality lifestyle of recovery. Please have a look at some of the technological features that it has, the audio files, and the video files that are incorporated into the publication as well. I hope you have fun with it, and I hope there's something there for you.
Serene Scene, a magazine for long-term healthy lifestyles of recovery. Visit www.serenescenemagazine.com and subscribe today.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide a safe and powerful healing environment. To speak with an addiction specialist, call our toll-free number 24 hours a day at 855-652-4325.
This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius.
Welcome back to the show. I don't know if it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius, but listen, you may be on the horizon of a new day dawning. If you are brand new to recovery, congratulations. Listen, your healing starts now. It's just like when, you change your eating habits. If you're diabetic and you've been eating things you shouldn't be eating, the day you stop doing that and you start changing your eating habits, your healing starts right then and there. Now, it doesn't always feel that way. It isn't always obvious, but it is true. And if you're on the dawn of a new beginning, we welcome you here. Listen, if you got a prayer request, if you've got a concern and you'd just like to share it with us, please email us here at take12radio@comcast.net. We pray for all your prayer requests and lift you up before the God who is God and ask him to guide and convict and convert if need be in the areas that you may need it. And that the peace that passes all human understanding would guard your heart and guide your path. It is so essential to your recovery. Listen, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous even states that the whole reason for that book is to help you develop a relationship with your Creator. And we're talking about that kind of stuff on this show here at take12radio.com on your internet dial. This week, my guest, Jennifer Wilson, author and a blogger. Her website, clumsychristian.com. Now, Jennifer, did you write books before you started doing the blogging thing, or was it the other way around?
I have so many half-written books. I have so many of them, just tons of them. And just, actually before I started this website about a year ago, and before I did that, I did have the book that I just published. I really felt, convicted to write that when I first got into the step study, actually even before I got into recovery, before I got sober.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like, I didn't feel qualified to be a Christian because, I went to church and I thought, even the Christian church that was not really structured, organized denomination, it's still, I was like, these people know what they're doing. They know where to sit. Their hands go up in the air. They know all the things that they're supposed to do. They nod when he reads out of the Bible. And I was like, I am so unqualified for this. They're going to know that I'm faking it, and that's how I felt for a long time until I got to know, how God really views me. And so I felt like I wasn't good enough. And when I started to understand God's love for me and that, he didn't love me in spite of my sins, but because of them, that's when I felt really convicted to write this first book, because I knew I probably wasn't alone. There were probably other people that kind of felt that way, like would go to church and maybe feel a little uncomfortable and walk out of there going, I'm not as good as they are, and I don't think you could be any more wrong. And I don't know, maybe that will help someone be a little more comfortable with it and, bridge that connection for them. I don't know.
Sure. And the book that you are referring to is the Confessions of a Clumsy Christian Unqualified, true?
Yes, that's it. Yep.
Yeah. And people can order that on your website. Can they get it on Amazon as well?
Yep, they sure can. Yep.
Okay, super. And by the way, thank you for listing us under your resources. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely. You guys do a great job out there, and I love being able to, again, if I can offer, it's about experience, strength, and hope. And when I find people that can offer that, I would love to share that with other people. So my pleasure.
So why the title Clumsy Christian?
Because that's what I feel like I am. I mean, I don't know, I think the word bad, I don't want to say I'm a bad Christian, but bad and Christian are kind of synonymous because we're all sinners. And,
right.
I just think there is no such thing as a good Christian, but I feel clumsy sometimes. And especially in the beginning, I felt very clumsy in my faith. It's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Like, okay, God, I'm going to let you lead today. And then, whoops, let me take that right back. Or let me, I don't know. I feel clumsy. And I guess, where I'm at now, I hope I always do. I never want to feel like I've got this. I hope I feel like I fall down every now and then and I stumble, because that will keep me, it will remind me who's in charge and who really is, who I need to take my direction from. And, I just think that's just how I feel about it, that I feel clumsy. I don't think there is anything as perfect, for me, perfect, flawless faith, and I can do it right. I'm just doing the best I can.
Well, I absolutely love it. I think it is right on target. I think it appeals to the non-believer as well, because that's the complaint we hear by so many, right? All these Christians, they think they're so holy and self-righteous. And a lot of times that's a person's perception because of their own ego. But sometimes they have experienced that from Christians. And
Oh, sure.
And so when we level the playing field and say, hey, man, I don't do this perfectly, and I'm I'm clumsy at it. You're not putting yourself down. You're just taking an honest self-assessment, right?
Yeah, my first sponsor used to tell me that all the time. She'd say, she'd say this to newcomers a lot too, and she's not a Christian, but she'd say, if you ever run into anyone that tells you they've got it all together, run as fast as you can. Just run.
Yeah.
Run.
Yeah.
Wow, and I guess that kind of lends itself to why I feel that way, because I don't want to become that person, that thinks they've got it all together.
Sure. So, before we talk about your blog, so I want you to share a couple of those. One of the questions I have for you, because you're involved in CR, Celebrate Recovery, right?
Yeah, I am. I love it. I'm very involved in it. Yep.
Yeah. And I have a Celebrate Recovery home group. I have an AA home group that I attend.
Nice.
And one of the things, and I listen, listeners, I don't want you to misunderstand me here at all. Because my intent is not to criticize in any way, shape, or form. But I have to tell you, it is so refreshing to be able to worship openly, to be able to sometimes eat bad food. Sometimes
listen to, sort of good music, and they say that.
Yeah.
Well, listen to mediocre music, and they only say that because I think aren't you part of your worship team there?
At CR, no, I'm not. But I'm involved in this. Actually, you know what I did? I decided that because I've been asked, we want you to go through the chorus. We'd like you to be on the leadership team. Mm-hmm. And so, look, this is going to be very difficult for me to say this, but no, I'm not going to do that. And I was looked at kind of sideways, and I said, listen, I need a place where I can just go and decompress.
Right.
Because
when you're getting fed and you're not feeding.
And I'm not feeding because I do so much. Yeah. I do alcohol and drug assessment and addiction recovery services at our local church here. I do the radio station. I speak. I do live events and that kind of thing. And I just need a place where I can just soak it up, where the truth of the gospel is openly shared, as well as understanding the problem and the solution together. And it's just a remarkable thing. And sometimes the food is less than spectacular. Other times it's absolutely amazing.
Right.
The worship is so honest. It's kind of rough around the edges at the place that I go. But I love it that way. It's like, wow, the people are transparent. It's an amazing thing. I'm so grateful for Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah, I know. At ours, we have we have a lot of treatment centers that come in there. We have a lot of people that are part of the other fellowships, the secular fellowships, and there's a lot of crossover there, which is wonderful. And for me, it's kind of like my home group in AA is the first group I went to, because that's the first one I went to, and that's my home group. But CR is how I got led to AA. So, that holds a really special place for me, for sure.
Yeah. And what I love about it is they don't poo-poo AA or NA or any of those guys. Everybody's welcome, and there's no agenda there with that, and that's so I appreciate that so very much. All right, let's talk about your blog. Share with us maybe a couple of the blogs that you have on the site. And folks, again, the website is clumsychristian.com. You can do, as I did today, subscribe to the blogs, and you'll get notified in your email when there's a new post. But share with us some of your stuff there, Jennifer.
Sure. One of the first blog posts I wrote was it's called You Go Girl, and basically my first sponsor. When I came into recovery, I didn't like myself. I hated myself. I heard you in one of your podcasts talking with a woman about self-loathing, and that was just a huge thing for me. I don't think a lot of us that try to drink ourselves to death or kill ourselves really are very fond of ourselves, and And that was just a big, big issue for me all of my life. And when I came in, she said, every time you go past your mirror, I want you to say, "You go, girl." I'm like, "Oh, no. I can't even walk by a window, and see my reflection." But what was really interesting was as I did it, the more I did it, and as I was working through the steps, and I was starting to develop this closer relationship with God, and understanding myself more through the program and through the steps. One day I walked by and I didn't see that person that I hated. I won't say I saw someone I loved, but I saw someone different, and that was progress. That was like, I thought that maybe I could do this, that person wasn't this horrible person that I had always carried around with me. And I think it was because, she wasn't alone in that mirror. I know God was in there and starting to seep through those vulnerable places and the cracks that I had started to develop. And that's who I saw when I looked in the mirror that day. And, I just think so many of us come in, whether it's through our faith journey or through recovery, we come in hating ourselves. And, the person that we are allowed to become by working these steps is not, I hear a lot of people say, "I want my life back." I didn't want my life back. I didn't want to be with that person that I was with my whole life. I have a new life. It's a totally different life, and it's a totally different person who I see in that mirror every day. And, most days she's okay. I like her a lot. Some days I actually love her, but, it's progress. And that was just something that, helped me out so much that I really wanted to share that on my blog.
Yeah, well, you do such an awesome job, and I think what's so nice about what you write is people, and you even say it in some of your graphics there. You say "me too." I mean, those are two of the most powerful words I ever heard. Is me
absolutely
me too? Yeah. And
when I was depressed, and I deal a lot with, I am bipolar, but the depressive side of it is the one that I get. I don't get that, can stay up for a week. And obviously I can't write a book in a week because I would have written it 20 years ago, but I don't get that side of it. I get the depressed side, but what I have found is the best medicine. I was just talking to someone after a meeting about this, and she struggles with depression too. And the best medicine in the world for me with depression is being able to talk to someone else and not have to say a thing because they understand. Being able to sit there and just cry or not even have to say anything, but they fully understand what I'm going through and there's no judgment. And it's that me too that, it's like with recovery, we can only an alcoholic can help an alcoholic because they understand.
Right. You bet. You what was the statement that you made? Is it one of your blogs about "Don't call me a believer" or something like that?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I am. Believer. The word believer is so cultish to me. It's just like
it's really broad.
It took me a. What's that?
It's really broad. It's really wide. I mean, it can mean anything.
It absolutely can.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to be comfortable with that, and it has to do with some of my experiences. When I first moved to Florida from up north, I was looking for non-denominational churches and trying to put my kids into the Awana program that we had been in up north through a Baptist church, but it was not a pushy church. And I came down here and they started chasing me with Bibles and saying, "Are you a believer? Are you a believer? Are you a believer?" And it really freaked me out. And it's just 15 years ago or whatever, and I didn't understand what that meant. And even early on when me and God started to get to know each other a little better in the past, 5-6 years, I still didn't fully understand what that meant. And so to hear that term thrown around, I think people give it a negative connotation. And, I started thinking about that word believe, that you see on gift bags and on plaques everywhere. And it's just believe. And one of my favorite verses, is Mark 36, "Don't be afraid, just believe." And when I can put it in that frame, then I'm okay with it, because you're not just slapping a label on me. You're not just, lumping me into a group of, there's no negative connotation with that word, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But, I'm absolutely a believer. I believe that, definitely God sent his son to die for me, and he definitely saved me from my sins, and, but But originally, in the beginning, my Christianity was really, really uncomfortable. It's like wearing a new shirt or a new outfit that's really scratchy. I was like, not sure how I feel about this. And especially around family and friends that were not believers, I was ashamed, kind of. I was very reclusive. I could be great on Sunday, but the rest of the week, I wouldn't really talk about it. I didn't know. I was more concerned, I guess, with what people would think of me. And that's been a process. Faith is progressive for me. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Ooh, I like that.
Process.
Yeah, because we're so used to hearing that the disease is progressive, but faith is too.
Yeah, I just posted something on Facebook about that. Addiction and recovery and faith all have one thing in common. They're all progressive.
That's
Our
very
disease
good.
is progressive and recovery is progressive. I didn't want to wait a year to get my year chip, but I had to wait a year. And, and I hear a lot of people in the rooms that just beat themselves up because they're not where they want to be yet. They're not doing what they want to do. And it is progressive. I mean, and thank God for that, because we'd miss so much if we just got it all right now,
Right, exactly. One of my favorite ones that you have is entitled Character Defects. Can't live with them, can't live without them.
Yeah.
I love the picture of the donut, because when I see a donut like that, because of who I am, you know what I see? I see the hole.
Yeah.
And it says right on there, what will be left of me? And you're right. It seems to me that steps 6 and 7 are the most underused, overlooked steps in the recovery programs. In the big book, they take up a scant 2 paragraphs. In other literature, they are only touched on with a simple prayer or two. But for me, these 2 steps are vital to my continued emotional and spiritual conditioning, and I cannot ever take them for granted. And you really that's a hot button with me, 6 and 7, because you're right. We just kind of glance over them. 6 is really short and 7 is a prayer. And if you're in a group of people that really aren't too they don't really like prayer, they go, oh, that's a prayer. Oh, well, we can worry about that later. And they totally ignore it. And then they wonder why the rest of their recovery process isn't coming together.
Yeah, that's something I have to work on every day. And, I was sober a couple of years, and I was reading something in Celebrate Recovery has a Bible, an accompanying Bible that's, I think,
right.
Fantastic, because it has the little, it has the acrostics for each lesson and each word, and then you can go and it'll bring you to a book in the Bible and, relate Bible verses. But when I got to step 6 and 7 and I went and followed the acrostic, it said voluntarily submit to all the changes God has for me. And that word voluntarily just jumped off the page at me. And I'm like, oh, I have to ask him and volunteer it. I have to be so willing to, and like it says in the steps of AA, we have to, really ask him to remove these character defects. And to volunteer it means I have to take action to have him remove these. So, and that was a big step for me, because when I first got into recovery, I was terrified that I remember sitting in my step study and, they were talking about these character defects and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really scared that if I removed them all, there would be nothing left of me, because I would say some of my defects. There was nothing there except for a big old, a ball of yarn of all these different colored yarns that were each of my defects. That's who I was, and that's it. And if I took those all away, I would go poof and disappear in a puff of smoke, and there would be no Jen left. And my bigger fear was that if I removed all the defects, there'd be another Jen underneath who I hated more than the one I brought with me. So I was kind of, damned if I do or damned if I don't. I'm like, well, this kind of sucks, because I'm not going to like this outcome either way. And I think a lot of people feel that way. I think, I was working with a sponsee that was absolutely terrified of that. And the sponsor I have now really helped me a lot. And she said, if you could just look at each one of those defects as having a good side and a bad side, and if you can just flip that over and you can you can polish that, like look at it like a coin and just what's the other side and polish it up, and, maybe I'm really outspoken and aggressive, but that could be, seen as a good thing if I use my words for good. And so that was really helpful to me. And, I know now that those are things that I have to do daily because, I have that built-in forgetter, and I write in another one of my blog about how integrity to me means being the same person in my house as I am outside of my house.
Sure.
And that is not the case most days. I walk through my front door and there's like a portal. I don't know what happened, but that good Jen just like gone. And I just start yelling at the kids and I'm mean to the dogs and then my husband did everything wrong. And, and for me, that's the character defects. And I have to ask God all the time, please remove them and, or please help me, transform them into something for good. But, I think a lot of people feel that way, I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way.
They do. A lot of people will say in meetings when this is the topic, character defects, they'll say, well, quite frankly, there's some I don't want to let go of. And I get that. I do. Now, we know it says remove all. And I think the problem is, we try to remove them, and it says ask God to remove them. And we try to step into his job, and we don't do too well. But I think it's great the way you look at that. Flip them over. What's the flip side of this thing? And then it becomes very attractive to lose the character defect and gain the benefit of that dropping off. But it's a process. It takes time. Folks, Jennifer Wilson's my guest. Her website, clumsychristian.com. You can follow the link here on our main page at take12radio.com, where this will be up all weekend. It will also be, this interview will also be in our YouTube, on our YouTube page, archived there indefinitely. And we're going to be back with more with Jen when we return. Don't go away. Here's a message from two of our sponsors. We'll be back right after this. Free by the Sea, Sunset View Drug and Alcohol Recovery Center offers an inpatient residential treatment program for drug and alcohol addiction. Through our many years of experience treating addictions, we know that the best way to ensure successful treatment outcomes is by removing the client from the people, places, and things associated with their addictions. By reducing these distractions, we are able to give our clients the opportunity to fully engage in the treatment process and learn the coping skills they will need in order to begin a new life free from addiction. For more information, visit our website at www.freebythesea.com or call 800-272-9199. That's 800-272-9199. Free by the Sea, charting a new course to recovery.
When I got back from Iraq, I just couldn't shake the guilt that I came home and 34 other men did not. There isn't a drink or a drug out there that could touch that kind of pain. Believe me, I tried. But when I heard a Teen Challenge story on the radio, I finally decided to get help. This program did for me what nothing else seemed to be able to do. It gave me hope. Now I can finally move on and live my life in a way that honors those who lost theirs.
To locate a Teen Challenge Center near you, or for more information, visit teenchallengeusa.com.
The moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you. And while combing my hair,
Thank you, Aretha Franklin. And we want to pray for you. If you've got a prayer request, listen, send it in to us here at Take12Radio at Comcast.net. Don't think it's silly. Don't think it's stupid. Don't think it's too minor or anything like that. Just send it in, and we'll lay it at the foot of the Father. We need each other. We need each other to pray for each other and hold each other up. So please feel free to do that. My guest this week, Jennifer Wilson, author, blogger, clumsychristian.com is the website. Please visit that. Please bookmark it. Listen, I know that there's a million blogs out there, and some of you guys are really addicted to blogs. I mean, all you do is sit at your computer all day and read them, or maybe you have several and you're writing on them all the time. I get it. We get wrapped up in that stuff, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of junk out there that really isn't doing you any good. You know that. I mean, if you're if you're listening to this show, then you've got an internet connection, either on your smart device, your iPhone or your Android or your tablet or all the different ways, your computer, that we're able to broadcast, even on some terrestrial stations. And you know as well as I do, there is a lot of stuff out there that your brain just could do without. Listen, why not replace it? Why not dump that old trashy junk and get yourself into a blog that's healthy like this one, clumsychristian.com. Go there. Listen, even if you're not a Christian, you're going to benefit from this stuff. There's great healthy stuff. If you're in AA or NA or any of the A's, the 100 A's that are out there, they always talk about other literature that is helpful. Hey, this is a website. You can trust it. You can go to it. It's very well done. And if you sign up, you'll get a notification in your email whenever Jen posts a new blog. One of the things, Jennifer, that you talk about in one of your blogs is thank God for just enough. I love this. I'm just going to read it. It says, I was making my morning coffee the other day and was down to the last few packets of Truvia. That's the sweetener, natural sweetener. Over the years, I've used sugar, Splenda, Sweet and Low, and numerous other types of sweeteners in my office. And I've run out of many times. But this particular morning, I had just enough. And I was grateful. There have been many times when I've come close to running out of something and found that I had just enough. I've pre-soaked laundry and loaded it all in the washer only to find out I had just enough detergent to clean that one load. Boy, I can identify with that, and I'm a guy. I've done the same with the dishwasher. I'm sure we've all found ourselves in the shower with just enough soap or shampoo to get the job done. And everyone can identify with having just enough toilet paper left on the roll. These moments are little, thank God, moments for me. They are minor situations that cause me to stop and say, phew, that was close. Thank God I had just enough. I'm reminded to be thankful because of how close I get to running out. But I don't always do that with other things in my life. I forget to thank God. And then it continues. See, I read that. And no matter where I am in my life, I can identify with that. I mean, and it's so true. We find it difficult to apply it in certain areas and easier to apply it in others. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's just human nature. And I think, I know for me, I can remember the things that are tangible, that I can physically touch. I pull into the garage. Thank God I have a garage when it's raining today, and things like that. Or thank God I had enough gas to get to where I was going. And sometimes I might even take it further. Thank God I had the money to have enough gas to get to where I'm going. But, I didn't really get my head, I guess, that God connection to realize that even the intangible things, like thank God I had enough patience not to tell my son what I really wanted to tell him, not just scream and react. And my patience reservoir is always on E, but thank God there was just enough today. And, I don't know. I guess when I run into things like this, things just kind of pop into my head. And when I was making my coffee that day, I was reminded that, there's so many other things that I have just enough of that I forget to thank God for.
It's interesting. In Psalms, when it talks about our Heavenly Father guiding me through green pastures and so forth, I did a study on that. The pastures over in the Holy Land that the shepherds take the sheep through aren't what you would think. We think this envision of he allows me to lie down in green pastures, like they're just these flowing pastures of just nothing but green. And what they truly are just little nibbles of grass. And the shepherd leads the sheep. He knows the shepherd's voice, and there's just enough to get the sheep from that little bundle of grass to the next bundle of grass. Other than that, it's dry. And that is...
go ahead. in Philippians too, that he provides just what we need. Not more than what we need, but he always provides what we need.
Now, here's one. I just love this, and I'm only going to read a little piece of this because I want the listeners to go there. This one's called Fear, Getting Unstuck in Recovery. I think we've all been there. You write, I'm going to admit something to you that I haven't even admitted to my sponsor. I know, but come on. I know you've held something back from time to time, too. But this isn't a little something. This isn't a small thingy that I just casually forgot to mention. Nope. This is a big, bad, hairy, scary boogeyman sort of thing that has been stuck on my back, over my shoulder, in my closet, and sometimes under my bed for as long as I can remember. Ready? And that's where I'm going to leave it, because I want the listeners to go and read this thing. But see, we can identify with that. Yeah, I know. I get that. What did I leave out? I mean, that's why in the 5th step, it talks about, after we're done, we go home and we think about things that we may have left out, and we, contemplate that. It's important. And sometimes we'll find something that we've left out, and we still don't want to talk about it because, don't you know, that's that one thing. If you only knew that about me, you wouldn't like me anymore, right?
Yeah, and it's always, when I hear that from sponsees too, it's always something that to me seems insignificant, but to them they carry the weight of their world because of that one thing,
Yes.
And I've heard it said, what we leave out takes us out.
I like that. I like that very much. All right, other things that you've written. You've got a bunch of other stuff besides blogs on your website, right?
I do. I have these little God talks that just kind of came to me. I mean, I like having conversations with God. And, I don't know how he talks to you guys, but he's just really casual with me.
Yeah.
I need to keep it really simple. And, so I put those up on my Facebook page a lot, and I do a series of God talks. And they're just real basic. For instance, the one I posted yesterday, I think, said, hi there, God, I've made some big mistakes lately. I know you've invested a lot in me, and I feel like I've really let you down, and I'm sorry. So I'm guessing you don't want me working for you anymore. I'll just pack up my things and go. And I sign it, Quitter. And God writes, Dear Quitter, I know what you did, and I forgive you, but I don't want you to quit on me or on you. I still need you and want you. Besides, if I let all the sinners go, I'd have no one working for me. Say. So just these little kind of fun things that this is how I feel God talks to me. And so I've put those together, and if people come on the website and they do sign up for the website, they'll get 30 days of those sent to their email. And I'm compiling those to hopefully be able to do a devotional with that because they're relatable, I think. So, and anything that opens up that communication with God. And then I do have Confessions of a Clumsy Christian Unqualified, which I just put up on Amazon, and it's basically all those feelings about feeling not good enough for God, and being reminded that, how I discovered that I actually am good enough for God, and in all the areas of my life. And then Scrambled is coming out because, it's funny, I'm an alcoholic. I can't just publish one. So I'm two right away. I have to get them both out. And
that's funny.
Scrambled is basically just a bunch of short stories on recovery, mental illness, and faith. And it's just, it's not a memoir. It's more just, when I hear something or see something or I've experienced something, the words just kind of come out. And hopefully they're stories that people can relate to, whether they're in recovery or not. And they're topics that people don't like to talk about a lot, and I think they need to be shared. So,
well, listen, your work is, in my opinion, anointed. I believe that God's hand is on it, and I appreciate
Thank you.
Your obedience to Him to do this, even though, like you said, I don't know, but you went ahead and you listened to His voice, and congratulations on that. It is so appreciated. Great job. Good job. Jennifer,
I really appreciate that.
You betcha. Any last words before we close the show?
I just want people to know they're not alone. And, suicide is a big problem out there. And I do talk about that in Scrambled. And, it's a problem for the survivors. It's a problem for the family members that are left behind. And I want everyone to know that they're not alone and there is hope. And God loves us right where we're at. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. We are good enough and worthy. So that's it. I hope they hear that.
Yeah, that's great. We are because He is. And,
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Great stuff. All right, Jennifer, don't hang up. Folks, listen, the website is clumsychristian.com, or you can go to jenniferwilsonbooks.com. The link will be up here on the website. We'll also have this blog listed in our resources under blogs. It will actually be the first blog resource. We're going to make a new category in our resource page for you, Jennifer, under blogs. So you're going to be number 1 there. Listeners,
Thanks, Monty.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go down to the bottom of the page, click on Recovery Resources. It'll take you to that page, and there the link will be clumsychristian.com for you. And listen, again, if you have a prayer request or if you just want to comment on the show, please feel free to do so. Take12radio@comcast.net. Listen, you can listen to the show in several ways. You can go to take12radio.com, click on the Listen Online button. You can click on the Watch Online button. That gives you a YouTube version. You can click on Follow Us on Podomatic. It's iTunes, of course, is the number 1 podcast server. Podomatic is number 2 in the world, and there's an app for us there at Podomatic. You sign up for Podomatic, they'll never spam you. They're not going to bug you, I promise, and you'll be notified every time we post a show. You can download the shows from there so you don't take up your data on your smart devices, and you can also comment on the show when you're a Podomatic member as well. This has been a great show. I just absolutely love this website, clumsychristian.com. I can identify 100%. Jennifer Wilson's been my guest. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man along with Jennifer Wilson. We're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.